just want to do a follow-up video on my coasters that were in another video. This is a big pile of random SMD stuff, mostly from those our bulk SMD reels on eBay worth it videos. And so I got this big container. Hang on, let me use my fancy crap zoom. Oh, look at that. Cinematic. Okay, it's terrible. Yeah, the Sony kit lens, awful. Unfortunately, my one good Sony lens is not wide enough for shooting most of these videos. Anyway, I have a big container of SMD parts here, and I made some coasters in the previous videos, and I've kind of refined it, and I think I've managed to make some improvements. One, I got many coaster molds now, so I can make 4 at once, which is a big deal because when you're waiting for the epoxy to dry, you don't want to have to wait and then pop it out and do another one and then wait and then pop it out, and you're constantly mixing up the epoxy, so that's no fun. This is one of the more up-to-date ones I made. Now, I found that if you're making one of these yourself, less is more. Putting in fewer components really adds to it because there's a lot more. It looks a lot more glass-like, and there's a lot more depth to it. Now, this particular one, I used a big mix of components in, and you can see they kind of pop through the top, and it's just, yeah, a lot of them are upside down. There wasn't much planning put into this. I just kind of laid them out, and it doesn't work for me. It's lumpy and bleh. So I refined it, and in this particular one I kept only the resistors and diodes and stuff like that, capacitors. So there's no active components in this at all. Actually, there's probably SOT23 stuff in here, but anyway, you know what I mean. There's no like SOIC packages or anything. So another thing I noticed is that if you, when you got the mold, you can, what I was doing is I was putting in a little bit of the epoxy. I just used 2-part crafting epoxy. You can find it on Amazon. It's real cheap. I was putting in a little bit to get a base, and then I'd sprinkle in all the parts, and then I'd cap it off with more epoxy. And what I found is that you don't really need to do that. If you just put the components in first, you can fill it in with epoxy, and it will pretty much just cover the base of it. There may be a little gap or two around, but it's not a big deal. It doesn't really affect it, and it just looks a lot better because it's a lot more even. And like on this one, I think it actually looks pretty good. I don't know how good this looks on this crappy kit lens, but there's quite a bit of depth and stuff to it, so I like it. And you always have to file down the edges, I found, because I think the epoxy shrinks a bit when it hardens. Because the first one, I was concerned that when I got the lip on it, on the first ones I thought, oh, well, maybe the table it's on is moving and it's sloshing up the side, and that'll harden and leave you with a lip. But these ones, I did it very slowly. I filled it very slowly and didn't allow it to go higher than it needed to, no sloshing or anything. So it just slowly rose up to the point that I wanted the depth, and then just stopped. And even that, there's still an edge, so you have to go around and file it down. These aren't like fully filed down, and you'll always get a little lip on it, like a little focus, a little scuff mark. You could probably fix that up with some really fine sandpaper or something, but I was unable to get it to work, so I don't know. This is the last one I did, and I thought it was kind of cool. These are all, I think they're 220 microfarad 10 volt SMD caps. Unfortunately, they shifted slightly at the top. You can see it better on the back, but for the most part, it's actually pretty cool. And it was funny because I'm going through this. These were all in here, and I went, I don't really like the big SMD caps in here, so I'm going to take them all out and I'll use them in this. I spent like 5 minutes searching through this to get every single capacitor, and there were exactly enough to make this coaster. Isn't that weird? There were just like exactly enough. And before you think, oh well, you know, it took 50 or whatever and you had 50, I actually have a lot of these capacitors. Don't ask me why. I will never use them all. But when 4,000 Nichicon capacitors come up on eBay for like $7, it's kind of hard to say no, you know? So, yeah, I have a lot of them, and I guess coasters are probably the only thing I'll use this many for. I'll come up with something someday. But the bigger SMD cap one actually turned out really cool. I do like it. These are a lot thicker. It's very sturdy, even though there's a lot of there's some air gaps and there's a lot of open space. But yeah, I think it actually worked out really well. I think the straight lines probably weaken it a bit. If you staggered them, it'd probably be a lot stronger. But I don't think this is gonna break. And I think I do prefer these like really thin ones like this. Like this is a much thinner one, and just like the smaller components. I think the next ones I'll make, I don't have any epoxy right now, but I think I might try and make one with just an array of these tantalum capacitors, and then maybe an array of these you know, larger ICs and stuff like that. I think it might turn out pretty cool. I just keep all these, if you're gonna make like a batch of this, so to speak, I just keep all of these in this glass kind of Tupperware like container, and I usually throw a couple desiccant packets in there just for good keeping. I don't know if that helps or not, and just slap on the lid and they're good to go. You definitely want to keep the lid on, I mean, at least around here, because I got a lot of cats, so the 3 cats produce quite a bit of fur that will get trapped in epoxy, so I try to avoid that. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty easy. Just peel off all the parts, throw them in here. These small oscillators with the gold top, I think, would make a really neat one as well. As would, as I mentioned in my previous video, I think the really cool old ceramic chips would make a really, really cool one. I personally can't bring myself to throw a bunch of those into epoxy. Maybe someday. Mike, hey, you got those big Sun CPUs with the gold top. Those will look pretty cool. I have 1 or 2 of them as well. I basically bought the exact same board right after I saw those videos because it was so cool. Yeah, so, you know, go ahead, make these. They're really cheap to make. All you need to do is get a bunch of SMD parts, and just these molds, I think, are like $5, and then the casting epoxy is like $20, and that makes probably 10 of them, maybe a bit more than that. So, you know, they're pretty cheap to make.